Welcome to the From Imposter to Empowered podcast. I'm your host, Jill Perrick, mindset coach and imposter syndrome expert, and I'm here to tell you that imposter syndrome isn't a life sentence. It's just a dysfunctional way of thinking. If you feel like your ideas are unoriginal, that your message isn't necessary or important, or like you're a complete and total fraud, then you've come to the right place. Time to kick your inner imposter to the curb and create life-changing results for you and your clients. Let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome back to the From Imposter to Empowered podcast. Aren't you lucky? Getting a 5th episode in March. Love that. And I just want to shout out my one-to-one client, Sierra. So Sierra came to me a while ago. She bought the From Imposter to Empowered course, and then she bought the Perfect Launch Vault, and then she was in a group program of mine, and then I asked her to be a one-to-one client, and she was like, yes, hell yes, I'm so in, because I could just like see her potential. And then she joined the From Imposter to Empowered program. So she's been through a lot of my shit. And where Sierra was coming from was a network marketing background. So she had a lot of shame and fear around like selling and being annoying and not being able to take ownership for the transformation that she can create for her clients. And in the work that we've been doing, she has been able to sell tarot card reading. She has had sales calls where she has asserted her worth. She has worked through so many past stories and experiences and generational trauma that has led her to have the business that she has today, and that she is consciously working towards really aligning with her offers and making herself known in this sexuality and spirituality space, especially because there's so much shame and fear that comes from somebody who may be religious and dabbling in their sexuality or feeling shame around that. And Sierra brings light to that. So Sierra, I am so proud of you, and I can't wait to continue working with you and really growing an amazing foundation for your business. And I'm just so proud of all my clients that do the work, because they end up feeling amazing all the time. And even when they don't feel amazing, they're able to work through it easily. And Sierra is an example of that. So I would love to kick this off talking about fully fucking accepting yourself. And I say this because I had a client back in the From Imposter to Empowered program. She was in a Slack channel and she was like, ugh, like I just feel so bad about myself that I like sleep in. I know it's not professional and I just need to get into a routine and all this stuff. And she was basically asking for like, how do I get myself into this routine where I can like really be that next level version of myself? And I actually kind of said something that she probably wasn't expecting. I was like, what if the next level version of yourself did sleep in until noon? Like, I think we have a lot of messaging and like societal expectation around what's like worthy of being good enough or like professional. For example, I love sleep more than life itself, which is a problem. But like I love sleeping. I have always loved to sleep in. My friends with kids are always like, oh my God, you're sleeping in again. And when we were younger, my dad would be like, oh my God, you're sleeping in, you're wasting the whole day. It's this like culture. I actually saw this TikTok where I was like, yes, where the girl was talking about how like, why is it acceptable to go to bed early and get the same amount of sleep than if you went to bed late and just slept in and then still did all the things you needed to do? Like, why is it acceptable to like get up and at 'em in the morning? You know what I mean? And as somebody who is a night owl, I really do still enjoy sleeping in and then being really lazy with my day when I'm off from my full-time job, and then like getting to work in the afternoon or the evening. Like, I enjoy doing that. And the only reason why I was hard on myself before was because I work a full-time job. So like my hours are in the morning to the afternoon, and I would beat myself up if I was doing my coaching stuff really late into the night, because I was like, oh, like this is not what a professional business person does. But the whole reason we start this business is to do things our way. When I was talking to my client in Slack in the From Imposter to Empowered program, I was like, what if you just accepted the fact that you love to sleep in? Like, how would that change the way you look at it? What if you worked your business around you instead of thinking that you needed to be a certain way to achieve what you want? And this is a very like, okay, yeah, like acceptance of myself, like whoopee, that's not that groundbreaking. But what if you approach that with everything? Because I bet you, if you suffer with imposter syndrome, or when you're listening to this, you make a lot of what you do wrong. So you say like, I'm not eating properly, or I need to work out a certain number of times a week for it to be legitimate, or I'm not engaging properly in the DMs, or I'm not posting enough a week, or I'm not doing this or that. You make everything that you're doing wrong. The problem isn't that you're wrong. The problem is that you're making everything about you mean something wrong about you. So you're making it mean something wrong. You're making it mean that the fact that you like working and staying up late and then sleeping in, you're making it mean that you're lazy. You're making it mean, even though you're doing all the work that like you need to do, you're making it mean something that's wrong. So you tell yourself you need to change it. So you convince yourself you need to have this routine and do this and do that and create this new habit to be this like almighty version of yourself. But what if the version of yourself right now was good enough? What if the work was accepting yourself fully for who you are and making it work around your life, instead of making yourself feel bad all the time for the way that you are? When I came across this concept, especially, who does Amanda Francis always reference? And I'm sure I've said it on the podcast before. I think it's Carl Jung. Yes, Carl Jung, with his curious paradox in terms of like, when you accept yourself fully for who you are, that's when you can change. And that's because shame doesn't help you change. It makes you stay rooted in your fear, and you think that nothing you do is good enough. And shame doesn't help you create healthy habits. It doesn't inspire positive, emotion-filled motivation. It makes you feel worse. And the same thing goes for making yourself feel like everything you do is wrong. Whether it comes to your business and you feel like you're always hiring people and just trying to do things right, and then you realize, wow, everybody is just fucking throwing shit at the wall like I am. Everybody's just working with what works for them. They're accepting themselves. And the most successful people really trust themselves and go forward with that trust. They're not making it mean that everything they do is wrong. They're working themselves around their business. And of course, you're going to be like working on your habits and turning into that next level version of yourself, a more empowered version of yourself. But if you're trying to think of some like version of yourself that is so different from who you are now, like if you don't enjoy getting up at 6 a.m., why would the 6-figure or the 7-figure version of you get up at 6 a.m. every day when that just makes you feel exhausted and you love sleeping in? You want to work your life around what you want. And that's when we look at the societal programming, at the environmental programming in terms of, well, who said that sleeping in was lazy? Who said that sleeping in was wrong? Were they ultimately right? Who said that DMing is the only way to get clients? You know, like, we need to really think critically about when we give truth to a belief or a thought, because it's usually just because our brain wants to latch onto some type of sense or some type of direction without even really critically thinking about it. So I want to ask you, are you making everything about you mean that something is wrong? That the way you function, the way you run your business, the way you respond in arguments, like if you're just going through life fearing that everything you're doing is wrong, like for example, you may feel like your opinions aren't legitimate until somebody else validates them for you, or you kept your ideas a secret because you thought that they were stupid until you saw somebody else do it and you're like, fuck, I had that idea. Or you thought that your feelings were unwarranted because you thought that you had no right to feel that way. And there are so many stories and beliefs that can be layered underneath these thoughts and beliefs. You may think that we all have like some kind of like universal beliefs that we all kind of think, like for example, making money is hard, but that all comes from a story and a belief that somebody else perpetuated, and it was just put in our brains and we didn't question it. And so we have all this evidence for it that we never even thought to think that it was just a thought process. A belief is just a thought that you have over and over again, right? That you solidify within your neural pathways and you create that program, that automatic way of thinking. So your brain reverts to that instead of thinking, maybe this is just a program in my brain that's been solidified and I can choose to give a new thought more evidence and more power. Easier said than done, right? Always. So the problem isn't that you're wrong. Again, the problem is that you're making everything about you mean something wrong. Because what if, you know how we talked about radical responsibility on the pod back in January, what if we accepted ourselves in a radical type of way? What if we had radical self-acceptance? Just like Gala Darling talks about radical self-love. What if we had radical self-acceptance? Like, okay, I accept the way that I am. How can I work with this? How can I work with the fact that I love sleeping in? Instead of waking up early to work out, how about I work out in the afternoon? Instead of batching all my content 3 weeks before it comes out, it feels better to me to do it a week before it comes out. So again, it's just like getting back on the horse and retrying things, and leading with the notion, though, that you are always good enough and that nothing about you is wrong. There are millions of people in this world who do things in a million different ways, who run businesses in a million different ways, who make money in a million different ways, who live their lives so differently than you that there is really no way that you could be doing things wrong. There's no way. And that is the most arbitrary, vague statement ever in terms of like being wrong or doing things the wrong way. Because again, what is wrong? We don't give it meaning. We just think we're doing things wrong. But if we actually were to look at it and get specific, we wouldn't be able to come up with anything, because it's all just optional thoughts. Like, you could say, I'm engaging in the DMs the wrong way. And I would say, okay, like, how do you know it's wrong? Oh, because my coach said that this is the way to engage. And it's like, okay, well, I've also heard of a coach who believes in cold pitching. I don't. But I'm not going to say it doesn't work. I'm sure it's worked for somebody before, right? So like, we can't really say that anything you do or think is wrong. And this doesn't mean that you can't take advice or be consulted or do things in a way that somebody else may perceive as right and they want to help you improve your life. I'm just saying that we don't need to always lead with the feeling of I'm wrong, I'm a fraud, I'm not good enough, because that doesn't encourage you to go farther. It doesn't encourage you to take action or to make decisions. You just are constantly telling yourself you're wrong all the time. And like, what if instead you just accepted yourself for how you are and just know that every day you can work towards bettering yourself? And what exactly would that look like? And small baby steps. Like, you can improve your business every day. And I was talking to my friend DL, love her, and DL Sharon is her on Instagram. She is an amazing business coach, and she just recently left her 9-to-5, and she was a social worker, and she was actually my first coach ever. And she's actually on the podcast last year. She was saying how like a thought that she likes to think and a thought that she offers to her clients is, I'm not in a rush. And you're not in a rush. We've talked about finality before, in terms of you have this final way of thinking when it comes to your business. Like, if I don't make this 3K by next month, my business is over. And it's like, but is it? You're just going to start over next month. You're just going to do more things and like work your business. Like, it's not over until you say it's over. It's not over until you decide to quit. So the same thing goes for like, you're not in a rush to become this perfect ideal person. You have time. The only time restraints that you're putting on yourself are the ones that you yourself are putting on. Nobody else is. You have time. And you have time to become the person that you've always wanted to be. And you need to be the one who sets the boundaries for yourself. You need to be the one who accepts you. When you accept you, everybody else does too. And even if they don't, you don't give a fuck, because you accept you and you love you. And you know that your business was meant to be created around who you were, not for you to fit in a mold or be a certain type of person. When you know at the end of the day, we're all just seeking happiness. We're all just seeking feeling good and calm and content. And you can't have that when you are constantly trying to be something that you're not, because that doesn't make you happy. So, as always, you know where to find me. The From Imposter to Empowered program is currently running right now, but the waitlist is at the link in my show notes. And if you want to get on the waitlist for private coaching for 5 months, you can go to the Work With Me link as well and apply there. And I love you guys. Talk to you later. Thanks so much for listening to the From Imposter to Empowered podcast. Check out the show notes to get started on your free 3-day challenge to overcome your inner imposter. Once you're done listening today, screenshot this episode and share it to your Instagram story, tagging me at YourCoachJill so I can share it on my page. See you next time.